It can only be attributable to human error.
He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? Just a phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Mulder.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Cryptid Campfire. I'm your host, Eli Watson, and today I am joined by a very special guest. You may know her as the Cryptid Bartender, but her real name is Harley Sweat. Sweat. I got it right.
Sweat. I know. People like to say sweet because they like to try to be nice, but no.
Harley Sweat. Right on. How you doing today?
I'm not bad. How about yourself?
I'm good. Just chilling, you know. I'm glad to have you on here.
Yeah, it's about time. We've been talking about it forever.
Yeah, I know. Man, I know
Life.
we've been talking about it for a while, for sure. But I got you here now, and that's what matters, right?
That's right. That's what matters.
So I guess just kind of let's get into it. I mean, what is the Cryptid Bartender?
All right. Well, basically, it is my little side project, social media side project, Leo, where I make different cocktails once a week, all original recipes that are all based off of different cryptids, urban legends, UFO reports, paranormal instances or sightings, conspiracy theories, like anything that can kind of fit under that possibly real, maybe, but unexplained type of umbrella.
That's and as far as I know, you're the only person who's doing this.
As far as I know, I am too, which kind of blows my mind. I thought for sure someone would have done that before, but I guess not. So, hey.
No, and yeah, I'll share this little story about the first time I came across your page, you know. There's quite a number of podcasts out there that seem to involve drinking and discussing cryptids.
I've noticed
And
that.
yeah, I don't know. And so when I came across, you know, the Cryptid Bartender, I assumed it was kind of something along the same lines until I realized these are recipes to make actual drinks based off of cryptids and things like that. And I was like, wow, that's surprisingly original, you know? It's like
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to do for sure. I was honestly pretty surprised that I hadn't seen that before either. Because I mean, like you said, you know, once I started getting a little more and more out there, and I started following more podcasts and everything, and just more conspiracy cryptid theme outlets and all. Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that there are a lot of different podcasts where they'll even have it in their name. It's drinking and hauntings. It's drinking and conspiracies. It's drinking and UFOs. And so with how popular cryptozoology has been lately, all the Mothman hype and everything, yeah, I thought for sure that would have been done somewhere, but I couldn't find anything. And every time I make up a new drink, even I'll look around online and be like, okay, is this like an actual cocktail that I don't know about yet? You know, like there is, for instance, a lot of people ask me for a Loch Ness Monster one. That's actually already a thing. So I'm like, yeah, there's actually legit Loch Ness Monster shot. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that then because that's already taken, you know, maybe I can give it more notice, but I'm not going to make my own because that'll just get kind of confusing if someone ever wanted to try to order one somewhere. So, no, I'm glad I got to claim this before someone else did, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty awesome. It really is. And so I guess my question is, why did you start it?
Well, so I actually started this not too long after I started getting back into the workforce because I was a stay-at-home mom for years. And bartending in general just seemed like something that I would probably do pretty good at. So I had actually just taken a bartending class. We have like a legit bartending school here in town. And I graduated and I did really well. And one of the things they emphasized was stand out. It's a very competitive market. Find a way to stand out. So I have a decent history in food art, playing with recipes. Like I'll compete locally with mostly baked goods. I used to do cake decorating from home like for years, and so I'm like, okay, well, I can do the same thing with cocktails, why can't I do the same thing? So I started making my own recipes, and then what happened is a friend of mine messaged me a photo of a shirt, like a women's bowler shirt with a cryptid print all over it, just different cryptids all over it. And then she said to me, you need to make the Cryptid Bartender a thing. And I'm like, all right, what does that mean? What does that mean? And I'm like, I know what it means. And I started I'm like, okay, what if I create cocktails based off of different cryptids? And like, that's my thing. And so I started off, my first two were Spring Heel Jack and El Chupacabra. And it actually went over with people pretty well. So I'm like, okay, I can keep this up. And it actually started taking off pretty decently. So yeah, that's how it all started. I was looking for that extra edge in the competitive job market, and it has paid off. I actually ended up teaching that same class that I took within 4 months of graduating it.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Wow! Congrats! That's awesome.
Yeah, so yeah,
Have you
was my own
showed
creative method.
Have you showed a classroom of students how to make the El Chupacabra?
I haven't been able to like demonstrate it, but we used to have like a meet the teachers, meet the staff dealio on the wall with the absolute worst photo of me up there. But I was allowed to put my social media handles for that and everything because it was all work related, and it hyped me up. I was like, hey, look who's teaching you. So yeah, I used to have that on there. My students would go look at it and they'd find me on there and they'd start following my stuff. And sometimes, they'd try it at home. And yeah, so at least I got that out of it.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. So I guess what kind of got your interest into cryptids? Obviously, from the story you just told, you had a previous knowledge of what a cryptid was before starting this endeavor.
Yeah, I mean, I like to tell people I was basically just a mini Mulder by the time I was 11 years old. Yeah, no, it definitely started very, very early. It was just always something that, well, I guess I should say it actually kind of more started with UFOs and alien stuff. It just really fascinated me, the concept of like there could be something out there. I grew up in a household that was very heavily like, no, there's no way aliens exist. And I actually had my first UFO sighting when I was like 8 years old, and I wasn't allowed to research.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I wasn't allowed to research it. And so that, no, you're not allowed to look into it, just made me want to research it more. So after
Sure.
life circumstances changed a few years later, I just full on rabbit holed all of it, and it didn't matter if I believed it or not. It was just fascinating. It was like, what else are people seeing that they're afraid to speak out about because they're worried it's not going to be believed. They're worried they're going to be called crazy, whatever. And I just wanted to hear it all. So yeah, I've been heavily into this for quite a long time.
That's awesome. But you said you had your own sighting. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was 8 years old, and I was just kind of laying in my bed. I had a window right by my bed, and I was just kind of looking at the night sky. And I grew up in Sacramento, not exactly known for clear night skies, but I did anyway. And I saw this light that it looked like a star, but a lot brighter. And I thought it was kind of odd. I'm like, that's pretty bright for a star. And it started moving real fast, like kind of almost like figure eighting across the sky. And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. And then it stopped and split into two lights. Like it just split into two different lights. And then they both started doing that dance. I'm like, okay. They formed back into the one light, split into three. And they just kept doing this, like this cycle. And it only lasted maybe like 30 seconds. And at one point they just stopped and just shot straight in the air. Now, best part is I saw it a second night. So I know it wasn't just one thing. I've seen it twice. And, I tried, this is well before internet was super common or anything, this was, late 90s, but I tried getting my parents to come take a look at it, but 8 years old, oh, she's just seeing things. But it's like, no, I saw it twice. So that was the first spark of like, okay, something's out there and no one's believing me. Who else is seeing things and not getting believed?
Wild. That's crazy. And I'm also a little bit jealous. I've never seen a UFO. or a cryptid. Have you seen a cryptid?
No,
Or
unfortunately. I've seen a few different UFO sightings. One actually did make local news the next day I found out. So again, I know it's not just me seeing stuff. It was actually in the news a few years ago. And living in southern Arizona, you see all kinds of weird stuff in the skies. But no cryptids, unfortunately.
wild.
Not yet.
You ever been to the Mogollon Rim?
Not yet. Not yet. I
No.
haven't.
It's a pretty cool place, but reported Bigfoot sightings are up there, and if you've
Hmm.
ever heard of Travis Walton,
Yes.
yeah, I mean that's where he was abducted, was right on the rim, and
Yep.
it's pretty crazy. Not too far from where you're at, I think. So
Yeah, I believe it's a couple hours away. Not too bad, but
yeah,
yeah.
but wow, that's pretty nuts. So do you have a favorite cryptid?
I've always thought the concept of El Chupacabra was pretty fascinating just because there are so many different theories as to what it is and how it got here. Like everything from it's a escaped alien pet to it escaped from Plum Island and all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
that one I think is pretty fun just for that reason alone.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I haven't heard anyone say that before for their favorite cryptid yet, so you marked the first one. Chupacabra's been a favorite one of mine for a long time. I grew up in Southern California, which is technically Chupacabra territory, I guess, which because it started in Puerto Rico. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense, but anyways,
I actually
uh,
had this exact conversation out in public a couple of weeks ago. We have a nearby gem and mineral shop, and he's got like on display these, mummified chupacabra arms, mummified chupacabra skull. And someone was like losing her mind and asking all these questions, and he's like not knowing what to say. And I'm just like, I can answer everything. So, yeah, so we had that exact conversation. And I'm like, it started in Puerto Rico, but technically there's sightings here and even up there, and yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, it's pretty nuts. And the whole thing with the chupacabra originally being reported as a more alien-like creature, and now it's some sort of dog. I'm not
Mhm.
sure about that. Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
yeah, no, I don't know. Uh, I have family in El Salvador who actually say that they know people with chupacabra encounters. So I'm gonna have to go back once all the Corona stuff lifts and
Right.
I'm able to go check it out again.
That would be a lot of fun. I would love to be able to do some kind of cryptid hunt or something in my time. At some point, it is on my bucket list.
Oh,
I
awesome.
hardly even care what. I just want to go look for it.
Oh, let me posit this to you. You ever heard of the red ghost of Arizona?
Possibly. I possibly haven't just forgot.
So check this out. I think this is the way the story goes. This could be wildly inaccurate. But I know for a fact during the Civil War, uh, the state of Arizona brought in, I don't even think it was a state yet at the time, but I guess the territory of Arizona brought in camels to do a camel corps. So they thought the idea was that, camels are better off in the desert than possibly horses. However, you have to take care of camels differently than you take care of horses.
Not to mention we
I
have
guess,
wild horses here. Like,
right, exactly. But they brought in all these camels, right, and didn't know how to take care of them. So all the camels didn't really listen to the military, so they just turned them loose out into the desert. And I guess one day, a couple years after the fact, they found some soldier who was completely strapped onto one of these camels. And like, the camel was just kind of freaking out, and this dude was dead on top of it. And I guess they tried to get him off of it. The camel freaked out and ran off into the desert again, but the dude's head fell off as it started running away. And so I guess there's reported sightings of this red ghost, kind of like a headless horseman type thing, but
right.
riding a camel.
I was gonna say instead it's a soldier on a camel. That's interesting.
I don't know. It's pretty cool.
It
But
is. It is.
apparently, there's still wild camel sightings in Arizona and California as well.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that in the past. I don't see it talked about very much, but I've heard about it here and there.
It's pretty wild. Camels, man. So before we started the show, you mentioned a little bit about your interest in conspiracy theories. Do you have any favorite conspiracy theories or conspiracy theories that you think might be real?
There are definitely ones I think have a probability to them. I don't want to necessarily disclose which ones because I'll kind of point to my political affiliation.
Sure.
Some that are more, there are definitely some I find entertaining at the very least. And like I don't know, there are some I kind of feel like I don't want to say yes, I don't necessarily die hard believe them, but it's kind of at the point where it's like, you know what, if this turns out to be real, I'm not going to be shocked. You know, like I'm sorry, if the government is full on like reptilian overlords, it's gonna be like, yeah, that makes sense. You know, like that explains some things.
Yeah.
I don't believe it, like, but you know, but if it happens and like one of them just rips off their flesh suit, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it now.
Okay. So what do you think about aliens?
I definitely do believe that there's something out there for sure. As far as do I believe they're here, I don't really have. I'm not going to say yes and I'm not going to say no. There was a while I was like, yeah, they have to be out there. But at the same time, I'm kind of, you know, I see some stuff that sometimes in documentaries and everything that make me go, okay, there could be a chance, you know, but I'm not going to die hard say, yeah, there's definitely aliens and they're being kept secret. They're working with our government, etc. You know, it's another one of those, like, I'm not going to be surprised at this point. I do believe there's something out there for sure. Whether or not they visited Earth, I don't know.
Very interesting. What do you think about Bigfoot?
I don't like saying solid yes or no. You know, I've had too many things that have changed my mind one way or another. So I'm just kind of like, maybe in most things.
Sure. What do you think about Bigfoot?
I do believe at least at some point it might have existed. As far as like actual Bigfoot footage and such, like the famous why am I blanking on the name? I literally have Bigfoot right behind me.
Patterson Gimlin?
Yeah, the Patterson Gimlin one, yes. Yeah, you know, it's another one of those maybe. I actually have some people in my life who lived in that area and claim to have been involved in that video. So I'm kind of like, yeah. So I don't know. It's another one of those maybe, maybe not. If it is real, that'd be pretty darn cool. I think maybe at some point it might have existed. I actually believe pretty good chance, to be honest, for instance.
Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, maybe it's not alive anymore, but I feel like maybe at some point it might have been real. Possibly the same thing as Sasquatch.
Yeah. I think the Yeti's still kicking around. I just think, I don't know, there's so much on the Yeti out there. I mean, there's a reason we cover the Yeti for every Christmas episode. There's just, you could talk about the Yeti almost indefinitely, just like
exactly.
Bigfoot,
That's exactly it. There's just so much on it that it's like, okay, maybe this does actually have a pretty decent shot of being a legit thing.
Sure. I mean, there's like very clearly things like, you know, the Snallygaster or the Hodag, where there's a very finite amount of information on it.
Yeah.
You can just be, I mean, they're pretty thoroughly debunked, but sorry not to offend anyone, but just saying there's other cryptids out there that are just like, there's so much that's just you can't even draw conclusions from, really. It's just so bizarre and out there, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. And there's just, you know, I've watched so many documentaries growing up, and on Bigfoot and Yeti and everything, you know. And when there are the things like, okay, we've got some unidentified hair and we cannot identify it, it's like, okay, there's got to be at least something. Maybe if it's not specifically a Yeti, it's something out there. And constantly new species of this and that are discovered all the damn time. I mean, honestly, I believe that there's plenty of undersea life that we can't even imagine living under there just because we've explored so little of it. It's like, you know, when we're getting weird stuff consistently going on, I'm not going to doubt that there's at least something there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm with you on that. Do you have any recommended documentaries?
Not off the top of my head, to be honest. I've been kind of more watching the UFO ones on Netflix. There's some really good ones on there. What was that one called? Hanger. I can't think of it.
51?
No. It's a different one. It's like a mini docu-series. It's got like 6 episodes. It's called like, was it Hanger 8?
Is it
9? It's one of those numbers. It's been a couple of months since I watched it, but that one was actually, I think, really good. It was a really good UFO documentary miniseries for sure.
Let's see.
They had this whole like big one on like the Denver airport and stuff, and it was pretty trippy to watch.
Weird. Yeah, the Denver airport. That's what's going on there, man?
It's actually been 1 year since I was in the Denver airport today, and I didn't see anything weird, but I'm sure it's out there.
Really? My dad used to travel a lot, so he would he's the one who told me about the Denver airport and just kind of the weird things associated with it.
All the weird paintings and the supposed underground tunnels and everything.
Yeah, I mean all of that. I mean, me and my dad always end up in some sort of weird place. I mean, we went to Oregon to go to the Oregon Bigfoot Festival last year, which, you know, is actually probably the most normal part of that whole trip, but we ended up watching a movie. So we got there a day before, you know, just kind of looked around Portland, and then we went, we just didn't know what to do for the evening, so we decided to go to a movie theater. We ended up at this place called McMenamin's. That's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's a converted, like, Masonic lodge that is now a movie theater. And so there's like these really weird like paintings on this domed ceiling, just like
goodness.
You know, like naked angel babies type thing, you know,
Right.
And it was just weird. I don't know, I was getting some weird vibes.
The weird Masonic stuff, the weird like Illuminati type vibe stuff, it always just it's so that's exactly it. It's so like whack that it's like, whoa, we can't help but be fascinated by it. I actually had a coworker last year. He toured up and down California, and we were talking about conspiracy theories and other stuff kind of before that, like when I first started working. And we started talking about Bohemian Grove, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go drive through Bohemian Grove. And when he came back, I asked him, like, did anything weird happen, you know? And he's like, got this look on his face. I'm like, you saw a cult? He's like, I saw a cult.
What?
And he was telling me how like he went into like the woods they were exploring, and they found this like bookshop, and the bookshop was all just like, I think, a couple different books written by this one author. It was only for these books written by this one author, and they were all on Moloch and the other, like the owl god and everything. It was all that kind of stuff. And he's like, there was just one guy in that shop, and he had this weirdest look on his face the whole time we were there. And all the books were just by this one guy. Maybe he was the author, I don't know, but it was just his books. It was all about this owl god. And yeah. So,
weird.
apparently that's tucked somewhere in Bohemian Grove.
Whoa, I still have to go check it out. I want to check that out, but I'm not going by myself. I gotta have people with me.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I want to talk about on the show at one point. So I guess I'll just say for the listeners who may not know what Bohemian Grove is, it's just a reported, owl cult?
It's okay, so Bohemian Grove is a place, and it's basically like, it's like a big like lodge type area, and it's, I'm sure a lot of you know this, it's where Alex Jones infiltrated and like recorded all these politicians and elites and these big names reenacting this yeah, it was like occult practice beneath this big owl god statue type thing with like like a fake human sacrifice and things like that. And yeah, there are
Yeah.
lots of famous celebrities there, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and I think Reagan and all kinds of big names have been going to, and I think they do this every summer.
It's
Do you
so
think they
weird.
did it
Yeah.
now with all the social distancing? Do you think they still did
I don't know.
it?
I mean, they're all wearing masks usually, right? Or
Yeah, right. Masks, hoods,
yeah,
cloaks, all that.
yeah, yeah. So maybe I don't know. Hmm. Yeah, that's weird, dude. I don't know. It freaks me out. Low key, cults freak me out.
I
So
yeah, I get that.
yeah, I don't know. See, I always say this all the time. Like when people ask me if I want to go ghost hunting, you know, not really. I live in a haunted house. I've seen things here. I've
I didn't know
actually
that.
say again.
I didn't know that. What do you mean live
Yeah,
in a haunted house? Do tell.
yeah. Okay, so I'll share a couple of things. Yeah. So
I used to live in one
you
too,
know,
so yeah.
for sure. Well, for a little bit of history, we don't know who lived here before us, and I think my grandparents moved here. Oh, geez, maybe late '90s, early 2000s. Um, we're like in the heart of Los Angeles. This house was built in 1920, so it's exactly 100 years old this year. And yeah, it's kind of weird, but so basically, growing up, I had heard, that this place was haunted, that my grandpa's seen things, that my cousins who stayed here overnight have seen things. My dad once said that something touched him here, like on the back while he was sleeping. Um, and that really freaked him out. He has not spent a single night in this house since that incident. So apparently he was sleeping and something pushed him like gently from behind, and he just kind of looked back. There was nothing there, so he just thought, whatever, went back to sleep, and it happened to him again. And he turned around, nothing there. He thought, I don't know, maybe it's a dream, went back to sleep. And the third time that it happened, it was like a really intense push. And he like again looked and there's nothing there. He's like, screw it, I'm leaving. And like left at 4 a.m. because you
Yay.
know? And so, I moved here in 2016. I used to live with my parents, moved up here for college. And so I, for like the first 2 years I lived here, nothing weird happened. I was like, yeah, whatever. Like it gets a little creepy sometimes just because it's an old, creaky house, But nothing particularly weird happened to me until 2018. I was going to the restroom, and so from where our restroom is, you can there's these windows, you can see to the backyard. And the way the house is built, we have a balcony upstairs, and there's this support beam that reaches down and kind of blocks some of the view from those windows. And, you can see on either side of this support beam. And so I'm just casually look outside like I usually do. I don't know. There's no reasoning behind it. I just look, and I see this little girl, and I'm thinking that's a little weird. And because
Oh.
we have tenants who live upstairs. Okay, so we have our upstairs is split up into two apartments, right?
Okay.
One is currently undergoing renovation. It's been undergoing renovation for the past 4 years due
Ugh.
to a long, complicated history with contractors. Don't even get me started. That's a whole thing. But so the other side, they have two boys. So there's no little girl. And so I'm thinking, and maybe this girl is maybe 8 or 9. She looks real young, wearing a pink shirt, and she's got her hair in two little buns in the back, and she's walking like super fast, like, and I can't see her face. It's entirely shadowed, which doesn't really make sense, but for the way the lighting was at the time. But, so I see her, I'm like, this is so weird. And then she passes behind the support beam from my view and just doesn't come out the other side.
That's
And
pretty freaking weird.
I was like, what? And so like I go outside and I kind of look around. There's no one there. And I'm like, what? I think I just saw a ghost. And so, nothing happened for another month or so. And, I had a roommate at the time. And so I was outside. It was maybe 11, almost 12. I was talking to my now ex on the phone and, just needed some privacy. So I was outside in my car. And so we have an outdoor garage. And it's like barn doors, basically. My grandpa, keeps it padlocked on the outside and on the inside. I mean, we live in Los Angeles, can't hurt to be too safe. And so basically my point in saying that is that, you're not going to get out of the garage without opening the doors, obviously. Obviously without even opening the doors either, I would see it. And so from the way my car was parked, I can see kind of at a sideways angle the garage, or the garage door specifically. So if someone were to open the barn doors, I would very clearly see it. And I'm just talking on the phone with her, and boom, just someone walks out of the garage. The doors don't open, it just walks out. And, it didn't walk towards me or anything. It walked actually towards the outside street. And so it just took off again with the weird speed, though, because I could clearly see the legs on this one walking, but it was almost like it was gliding at this, like, ungodly speed, Just, it was so weird. It freaked me out,
Yeah, that would freak me out too.
Yeah.
I had a
Yeah.
very, very similar experience actually, where seeing the full body apparition just walking right through a door gate, like, and just going like, that shouldn't be happening. Yeah, I actually discussed that on a different podcast just a couple of days ago. And but yeah, haunted house. Actually, theoretically, my workplace has a haunted room, so I'm told.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I work for a movie theater bar, and apparently one of the theaters specifically is haunted, like to the point where a couple of managers absolutely will not go in it alone. And
Yikes.
I guess here's what's a little weird on my end too, is like when I first started working there were tons and times I thought I was seeing a young woman in all black, like in the corner of my eye, just like waiting, like I was supposed to take her order or something. So I turn around and she wouldn't be there, but I would see her occasionally, time to time, just in the corner of my eye, like, okay, who's there? Not there. And it was later, I found out from a couple of managers, they were talking about something weird happened in this theater. And they're like, oh no, like, is it, I don't remember which theater number it is, but like, is it theater this? I'm like, what's wrong with theater blank? And they're like, I don't think you want to know. I'm like, no, I want to know. They're like, no, this might legitimately freak you out. Okay. I'm like, you don't know what I watch in my spare time. Please elaborate, And so they're like, okay, we legitimately think it's haunted. I'm like, okay, continue. And they were telling me that there have been times where that they're like the projectors and stuff in that particular theater will go down, and there's no reason for them to go down. It's always in that theater. I guess the really big things is this happened, I think, twice. They had a full theater, people watching the movie, and all of a sudden everyone evacuated. And so they're like, what the hell? Why is everyone evacuating? We go out there and they ask them, like, well, yeah, there is a woman in all black. She said that she worked for you guys and that there was an emergency and we had to evacuate. Well,
oh my.
Except there weren't any women working that night.
No. Stop.
So there's reports of voices, laughter, woman laughter, things like that in that particular theater room alone. So yeah, I haven't experienced any of that myself, but again, I work the bar anyway. I don't typically go in there.
Yeah. I used to work at a movie theater myself, and there was reports, that it was haunted. Um, just like weird stuff, We it was a two-story theater, and there was we call them houses, the
Mm.
different theaters, so I'm just gonna use that terminology. It's just so ingrained in my brain. But so there was House 18, which was upstairs, and that one was always kind of creepy, but like so were all the upstairs theaters because
It's dark,
it's dark
alone.
and it's yeah, there's like way less people, I don't know. I didn't
Well, and all the equipment, I'm sure there's also just a lot of electromagnetic fields going on, giving you weird, creepy vibes and all, which at first I
Yeah,
heard
true.
that the stuff keeps on functioning. I'm like, okay, maybe that's it. But no, apparently like a full-on woman told everybody to get out, like to the point where they
Yikes.
all listen. And so, yeah, that's a little weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody could locate her. Nobody could point her out or anything. So I don't know.
So let me share with you this one. My manager told me at the theater. We had this IMAX theater, which was accessible from the second story. So the projector was actually on this third story, only accessible by employees of the theater.
Hmm.
I think you had to have a special key to get up there, but you know, for our projectionist, we had a phone up there in case we needed to call him, or if he needed to call the manager's office, which was all the way on the first floor. And so my manager was telling me one night he had finished, all the shows had finished for the night. He went upstairs, was doing whatever the maintenance was required on the IMAX projector, and then went downstairs and was in the manager's office alone and got a call from the upstairs IMAX projection room. And apparently no one was on the other end, but I was just like, oh God. So I only went up there like twice, but I didn't like it. It was kind of creepy there.
Yeah,
So
it's creepy.
yeah, but on top of those sightings that I've had here, I've had some recurring dreams about this old woman um, that's always standing behind my grandmother, and my grandmother's not aware of this lady who's standing, behind her, and this woman's got like this really like I can just feel like malevolence coming from her, It's like she's angry at me and doesn't want me to be here or something like that, you know? It's kind of weird. And actually, the past week, I've had some like weird stuff happen with like in my room, like
Hmm.
just lights turning on and off on their own. And I'm just like, what? Why? But it is an old house, so like sometimes things do turn off just because the breaker gets overloaded. But like
Yeah.
I've had my TV turn off before, but usually when that happens, everything else in my room goes off too. Like my phone will stop charging, all my
Right.
lights turn off, everything goes off, the breaker short circuits or whatever, you know. But like lately it's been like just like the light will turn on at like 3 a.m., and it'll wake me up in the middle of the night. And it's like, why?
Hmm.
And nothing else will like be off. Like everything will be the same, Or I don't know. It's just hard to describe. It's been really kind of freaking me out, but it's okay. I'll get through. Uh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I had kind of similar stuff going on, and the last house I lived in Sacramento actually had some weird instances like that as well. I think personally, I don't think the house itself was haunted. It started around the same time. My parents were antique dealers, and they would bring antiques from estate sales, dead people homes, all the damn time, every single
Oh,
weekend, 3 to 4 days a week. Okay, so
oh, I see.
imagine all the energy collected in all these different items that they were bringing home on a regular basis, and so an example is like they brought home this table, this really big, amazing and vintage table, and every time I sat at that table, we actually plan on keeping that one, so every time I sat at it, I would get this horrible chill down my spine, like really
Oh,
uncomfortable jerking chill. And I didn't say anything, but then my mom casually said to me, "Yeah, the previous owner actually died right at that table."
Oh,
That explains some things, doesn't it? Yeah, so yeah, I get it. I get the creepy.
yeah. Oh, that's awful.
There's actually one time. This is a fun one. Have you ever been to Orville, California? It's more up north.
No, no,
Okay,
I haven't.
so when I was about 15, we were looking around for a new home, and we were considering moving somewhere outside of Sacramento. And there was this really cute house in Orville, California, and we liked it. We liked the overall area, but my mom and I are both like, why is there just such a creepy vibe to it? Like everything seems so charming and cute, but like there's something off. And at one point, my mom just flat out asked the lady giving us a tour, "Did anybody ever die here?" Because it was like
Mm.
that overwhelming. And she's like, "Not that I know of." And so, but we just had this sinking feeling like, wow, it seems so great. We're just like, something is wrong. Something is not right here. And so I got kind of curious and I started doing some Google research, and I found out right around that area is actually really known for hidden satanic cults and
Mm.
exorcisms and all kinds of things going on there. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably why we shouldn't have been there, because things that shouldn't be there are happening there.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I'm definitely a believer in the occult, and just like weird rituals that people do in secret.
Yeah, to be
Uh,
honest, like just in case, I do not bring like Ouija boards into my house, for instance, like just in case.
I do the same. Uh, yeah, I don't know why. I guess to get kind of social commentary here, but there seems to be a big movement, especially on like social media, that things like witchcraft are not real, and it's like, but they kind of are, but it
Yeah.
kind of is. It's like,
Hmm.
I don't,
There's something.
oh, for sure. I always bring this up on the shows. My grandparents and my entire mother's side of the family is from El Salvador, and you know, they believe in witchcraft, they believe that it's
Mhm.
real, but this isn't the cutesy pumpkin spice latte kind, or even like the
Right.
Wizard of Oz kind either. This is like serious stuff, like people. I mean, you're literally coming from a place where the Mayans used to do human sacrifice, you
Hmm.
know? Yeah, that's literally in my bloodline, and it's like my grandpa tells me all the time, there's people out there who still do that kind of sacrifice, in El Salvador. And I'm like, ew, that's like that's creepy. Like, why are you doing that?
No, no, there's still people. I know it's not like the norm, it's not common, but I mean, there are still people who do things like, take black cats and use those for whatever purposes,
Yeah.
things like that. I mean, it's not like it's everywhere necessarily, but I mean, there are some out there that still do it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, there's 7 billion people in the world, so
Right, exactly.
there- someone's out there doing it for sure. I mean, I always
We
like
had
to think,
I was
go
gonna say
ahead.
we had two kids freaking try to sacrifice a kid over Slender Man. Like, you don't think someone's out there doing actual witchcraft.
Right, right, right. Yeah, that's terribly sad stuff. Yeah, but that's a very good point. Um, so I guess slightly changing topics here. This is I guess this is the staple of the interviews that I conduct. I ask this question to everyone. What are your top 5 favorite monsters? And these can be, it's not necessarily restricted to cryptids. This could
Okay.
be movie monsters, book monsters. It could be cryptids if you really want it to be, but
Okay.
top 5 in no particular order, just off the cuff.
All right. Um, I have always been quite fond of Godzilla and Gamera, if we want to count those.
Ooh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I absolutely love the old movies, the cheesy ones, and the current ones that came out not long ago. I love those ones. I already mentioned Chupacabra, El Chupacabra.
Ooh,
Um, let's see. Gosh, there's just so many. It's hard for me to narrow down. I'm not good at favorites because it's always like, how do I decide? I guess Bigfoot does hold a special place in my heart just because my great grandfather, like I mentioned, I have people in my life that claim to have been part of that. My great grandfather claims he was part of the Patterson Gimlin video. I don't have solid proof of that. I do. He was also really into Bigfoot. He grew up not grew up, but he lived right in that area. He was a logger right in that area, right in that time. Wow. Friends with everybody. And actually, here's something that's kind of fun though. When I was 13, I was up there in his property helping him move from his cabin to a nursing home because he's getting really old and couldn't maintain it anymore. And as we're going through his stuff, I found a VHS that was labeled Bigfoot footage, except I wasn't allowed to watch it. So, right? I know. Look
Can you get your hands on this? Can you?
I wish, but this was 16 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to say he definitely was because I got nothing to prove that. But I mean, he had a really heavy interest in it for sure. And he likes to just say stuff too. He totally could have just been bull crapping it all. I don't know. But because I saw that VHS, I'm just like, and the fact again, I wasn't allowed to watch it. I wasn't allowed to look into it. And now I'm just like, why? So yeah, Bigfoot definitely holds a special little place in my heart for sure. Let's see. Mothman's always really fascinating for sure. But he's so everywhere at this point. Right? Yeah. The shredded abs.
Yeah, right.
Like damn, but and let's see, let's see, one more. What's one more I could put up there as a favorite? I don't even know.
Anything really, I mean.
I know, that's the problem. Anything. That leaves so many possibilities. Okay, I'm gonna maybe go with, maybe you've heard of these. They are little Romani vampire watermelons.
What?
They are watermelons that are like cursed. You have to if they're like, I don't remember exactly how they're created. They're like, and I guess it happens also it can happen to gourds and stuff too. But like under certain circumstances, they're like they become essentially like possessed and evil and blah blah. Except they're literally still just watermelons or just pumpkins. They don't actually like grow teeth or anything. They just have the anger of a vampire, and they just kind of roll around making dumb noises.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Vampire. Let's see. I looked it up. They're, wow, what? Vampire pumpkins and watermelons. There's a Wikipedia page on it. It's a folk legend from the Balkans. Weird.
It's just so like, what's the point that I can't, like, they don't do anything. They just roll around and grunt. Like, it's so funny to me. So that might be in number 5.
Weird. Wow, dude, I've never even heard of that. That's so cool.
It's not a very popular. I guess the squonk is a good one to say too, just because it makes me sad.
Squonk.
But, yeah.
A lot of us relate to the squonk.
Right.
That's crazy. We just did our vampire episode and didn't even come across this. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's not a very. I actually first learned about it in Cracked.com, and it was like, a couple of months ago. I'm like, okay, I need to look more into this. Like, was that just a Cracked.com thing, or is this legit? And then yeah, like you just found the Wikipedia article. I'm like, oh, okay, it's legit folklore. They didn't just make that up. All right.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Because even in the article, they said, I don't know if this guy was being serious or if he was just making up on the spot. Like, they said that in the article. So I'm like, okay, is this legit? Nope, apparently it's legit.
Oh, yeah. It says that sometimes blood forms around these watermelons. Yeah, it's weird. It says a pumpkin or a melon is about to undergo a vampiric transformation or has just completed one. Is said to be the appearance of a drop of blood on its skin. That's weird. And there's only one reference to it from this guy named Tatumir Vukanovic. I'm not
exactly. It's just like that. like niche. It's that unknown. So it's like, is this legit? I hope it's legit because that's hilarious. But yeah,
Right. I
I'm gonna
mean,
pretend it's legit.
I have a similar kind of misgiving about the Mongolian death worm, because when you
Mhm.
really get into the Mongolian death worm, you realize that there's only one guy who ever went looking for the Mongolian death worm,
Mhm.
and all of the information that supposedly comes from Mongolia or Russian sources were translated by the one guy who went looking for the Mongolian death worm.
That's
So
not
you're
suspicious
like,
at all
yeah,
whatsoever.
right. You're like, wait, so everything we know about the Mongolian death worm essentially comes from one guy.
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't. To me, that's kind of sus. But
Right.
let's see. Oh, here we go. Do you have a favorite recipe of yours?
Um, I think one of my personal favorites, just because this was such a hot mess, throw it together, very little expectations. It actually became really popular and beloved amongst fans. Might be the Meth Gator.
The meth gator. Okay.
That was literally just when people were like, please make this. We're calling it a cryptid now. Please make this. I'm like, okay. And I mean, it is seriously just like a hot mess. It's got like Gatorade and absinthe and moonshine and Southern Comfort and like it's just so thrown together. It's got like rock candy shoved into it because I was like, hey, how can I? Because like for those who don't know what the Meth Gator, basically this guy was getting raided and he was found flushing meth down the toilet, and a cop said you're going to create meth gators by doing that. And so I took like rock candy and stuck it in because then it's like you're flushing the crystal meth down the toilet. And so I made it, and that is like one of the cocktails where people go through my stuff and they decide to like make a few. It's always on their list. They always make it.
Really?
They always like one guy told me he's like, honestly, I made like 6 of these like one night.
Wow.
Like people
Wow.
actually really enjoy it, and I had no expectations. I was like, I don't know, let's just make this as dumb as possible, but it worked so well. So that's probably my favorite for that reason alone.
Right on. I've tried two of your recipes actually. Melon heads and El Chupacabra. No, wait. It wasn't El Chupacabra. I wanted to do it, but we couldn't find like two or three of the ingredients. Um, this was like height lockdown, so
Oh
everyone was
yeah.
just buying everything. So I'm sure I
Mhm.
wouldn't have an issue now. But yeah, melon heads was good. What was the other one? I can't remember for the life of me what I tried. But wow. I'll have to get back to you on that, I guess. Sorry, fans. I'm not gonna remember. But but yeah, I mean, they're good.
I've tried to make them good. I sure hope they're good.
Yeah, I mean
I
they
get people
are.
ask me like, do you actually try them? Like, well, yeah, I try them. I'm not just gonna make up random crap and post it for you guys and hope it works. Like, I actually
Yeah.
put effort into these. Thank you.
Yeah, and now you're doing a video with some other podcast, right?
Yeah, we actually just did that on Saturday. I created a new cocktail specifically to release for this episode, and it's basically like a combination of a Bloody Mary and a Michelada. And yeah, they got the ingredients and they made it on camera and tried it and went over really well. So I'll be releasing that one on the Facebook page and Instagram. I think on the 21st. I think that's the date. It'll be doing October 21st. If I remember
All
right.
right. That's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah. Um, I don't have any more questions, I guess. But I don't know. Before we bring this episode to a close, did you have anything to ask me or
um,
anything else to comment?
Gosh, I'm not good at asking questions.
All good.
All right. If you had a request for me to make a specific cocktail based on something, what would it be?
Oh, jeez. Hmm. Let me think on this for a second because I'm trying to think. You've covered a lot, so I
A
don't want
lot,
to.
but nowhere near. I've straight up got my entire year's roster from now until the end of 2021 planned out. Not all the recipes, but like all the themes, like in my planner.
Whoa. Whoa. Wow, really?
It's just easier if I plan ahead of time. Otherwise, I start flipping out and go, oh my God, what am I going to do?
Sure, yeah. Let's see. I'm going to go through our episodes and see what we've covered. And have you done one on the Thunderbird yet?
Not yet. That one has kind of been in the works. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that flavor profile, because that's what I like to do is look at, I'll take the lore and I'll kind of combine, what flavors are regional to that area where it's from, or things like that. I try to combine different parts. Thunderbird has been difficult for me to figure out, so I'm working on it. But that one is throwing me a loop.
If I may suggest then,
Please
instead, Champ.
I have a champ.
You have Champ. Champ's out?
It was actually, yes, it was actually featured at the Lake Champlain Champ Day online festival thing. I have a video tutorial. Yeah, I've got a video tutorial for it and everything.
Yo, I'm gonna make that. And yeah, Champ's one of my favorite cryptids.
It's like a float. It's like a hard float. It's good.
Like a root beer float? Is that what you mean? Or
it's not root beer. It's ginger ale in there. But yeah, like that with the ice cream and like alcohol and stuff. It's really good.
Yummy. All right, it's a done deal. It's happening. All right, yeah. So I guess as we prepare to part ways, feel free to tell us where I can find you online. If I'm so intrigued by your paranormal stories and your knowledge of cryptids and bartending combined, how do I find you?
I'm mostly active on Facebook. I have a page, Cryptid Bartender. I am also on Instagram as well. I do have a Twitter, but I honestly do not keep up with it as much as I keep up the Facebook page. The Facebook page has everything, memes, the recipes. It has a album, everything in there, so you can find it easily. So that's the best place to look. Once I hit 6,000 followers on there, which I'm getting closer and closer to, I'm pretty close. Once I hit 6,000, I am going to be doing a small giveaway to kind of boost everything. And I'm hoping to get video tutorials up and running again. Right as I started doing that, I started with Champ, and then life just kind of kicked me in the butt for a while. So I'm hoping to get that going again too. So there is a YouTube channel. There is also a YouTube channel. It's just only got one episode up right now, and same name, Cryptid Bartender. So that's where you can find me and all my recipes. And by all means, if you try them, please let me know. I love seeing when people take photos and post it and they give me feedback. Like my whole end of the year was made. I had somebody make the gay frog that I did on New Year's Eve. And she did it like at a party, and she was like, they're going like crazy, and I was just like so happy over that. So yeah, if you try them and you like them, please let me know. I love seeing that so much.
Yes, you heard it, Campfire fans. Go make these drinks and then share them. Get crunk. It's okay. It's cryptid related.
Yeah, exactly. It's science, technically.
For sure. Well, thank you very much, Harley, for being on the show.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have to share me drinking the Champ drink here shortly. So, you have a wonderful day, and to the fans, I'll see you next time.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.